It's a scorching day in December 2022. The heat radiates off the pavement as Aaron Carl Labrook, president of the Rebels Motorcycle Club in Western Australia, makes a catastrophic mistake. With a grin plastered on his face, he cruises in his flashy BMW, blissfully unaware that he's about to bring the entire club to its knees. The police pull him over, and what they find changes everything. A staggering $210,000 in cold, hard cash. This isn't just another bust. This is the beginning of the end for the Rebels.
Bikie boss and high-profile horse trainer have fronted court over a Christmas cash bust, accused of disguising $500,000 as presents. Detectives say WA racing royalty Kelly Kersley and rebel Carl Labrook were behind the scheme, and as 9 News explains, their relationship goes much deeper.
Ever since this incident, the Rebels have had to deal with betrayal and the possibility of the club crumbling to the ground. Loyalty is everything when it comes to motorcycle clubs, especially to the Rebels. And when this is not followed, betrayal can get you booted out, if not killed. What happens when a long-term Rebels leader feels betrayed by his president? Well, that's exactly what happened between Labrook and Damien Vella, the national president of Rebels MC. This is a story about loyalty and the consequences of betrayal. This is the story of Carl Labrook and how his arrest could easily be the end of the Rebels in West Australia. There is not much known about Carl Labrook's early life, but one thing is certain. Carl Labrook was a criminal right from the start. Labrook's criminal history goes as far back as his history with the Rebels Motorcycle Club. From violent crimes, drugs, financial crimes, and even speed chases. If you were wondering why he has been under police surveillance for the past 20 years, his lengthy criminal record could be the answer. Add to that his association with biker heavyweight Rebel Rick, and it can be easy to see why the police have been on his case for over 2 decades.
Labrook's first dance with the law was in 2001. Labrook was put away for dealing drugs along with several other members of the Rebels gang. The gang had set up a drug enterprise at Metropolis Hotel, and the police went down on them hard.
The supposed prison rehabilitation of Labrook was an epic failure. After spending time in jail for dealing drugs, he came back and took it a step further, as he started manufacturing drugs. Labrook was later arrested for manufacturing drugs in 2010. By the time the police managed to catch on to his new criminal enterprise, he had already made a fortune and earned a lot of street credit in the Australian underground. For most people, 2 terms in prison would be enough to set you on the right path, but not for Carl Labrook. In 2013, the rebel leader was again arrested after a high-speed chase with cops. The chase ended with a crash, injuries, and Labrook in prison. After serving his sentence for this 2013 crime, Labrook seemed like a changed man, but his continued association with the Rebels would later prove otherwise. In December 2022, Carl Labrook was back in the news again, and this time for a crime that could easily send him to prison for a very long time. Although Carl Labrook has been arrested several times, this case might be the one that sent him to the pits of Australian jail, and it could easily be the dumbest one yet. In December 2022, Carl Labrook was driving his flashy BMW. Despite knowing that he had been under police surveillance for over 20 years, and the fact that he was not allowed to drive, he still had a suspicious package in his backseat. It's easy to assume that Labrook had a death wish, and that is easily what he got. The police stopped him, and unlike the incident in 2013, he did not try to make a run for it. The police searched his car and came across the 2 cases, which were in the back seat. Inside the cases, the police found packages wrapped with Christmas wrapping. When they opened the Christmas wrapping and the vacuum wrap under it, they came across more than just a Christmas present. The police found crisp cash notes that totaled $210,000. Yes, over $200,000 in cash. On that same day, by luck, or more likely as a result of Labrook's confession, the police intercepted Kelly Kersley's car. The police went on to raid Ms. Kelly Kersley's house. What they found in Ms. Kersley's house was a jackpot and a death arrow to Labrook. Ms. Kersley was found in possession of $250,000, wrapped in the same Christmas wrapping as Labrook's loot. It seemed like a dead end for the duo. What they didn't know, though, was it was just the beginning of what would become an even bigger pool of problems. The two were jointly charged with possession of unlawfully attained property, and what followed has been a roller coaster of destruction. After Ms. Kersley's conviction and sentencing, Labrook has been surprisingly cooperative with the police, especially if his latest court appearance is anything to go by. Labrook is facing a difficult case and the prosecution has him in a corner. His arrest was caught on camera. Ms. Kersley has already been convicted, and the court knows that he is a repeat offender. It seems there is no way out for Labrook, right? Well, Labrook decided to go the unconventional way. He decided to fight for his freedom by any means possible, even if it meant bad-mouthing his dead best friend or breaking the rebels' code of honor. When asked where he had found over $400,000 in cash, Labrook told the court that the money was from the Rebels Club membership fees. Labrook went on to reveal that he was storing the money at Kelly Kersley's house because his wife had threatened to burn all the money. Labrook's wife, who was facing a serious bout of postnatal depression at the time, knew of the money and had threatened to destroy it in her rage. This revelation was not the shocker, though, but what Labrook said next is what has the whole of Australia in a chokehold. What left the Australian underworld talking is what Labrook had to say about Nick Martin, who was the Rebels' president in Western Australia, and more importantly, Labrook's best friend. Nick Martin, who was the president of the Rebels, was shot by a sniper in 2020.
Nick Martin's murder was a very public one. He was shot from long range while watching drag races with his family at the crowded Kwinana Motorplex. Now the man who fired the fatal shot has admitted his guilt.
Labrook told the court that he had wrestled power from Martin before he died in a meeting that lasted over 4 hours. Why had Labrook instigated a coup on his own best friend? Well, according to Labrook, Martin had been taking membership subscriptions and using them to renovate his big mansion. Yes, the president of the Rebels was stealing hundreds of thousands from the Rebels. This just shows that there is no honor amongst thieves, and due to his thieving ways, Martin had to be removed. Martin was not happy about the removal, but he did not live long enough to fight it. He was shot dead by a sniper months after his removal. This revelation by Labrook sent shockwaves throughout Australia's underground. Martin was a respected member of the Rebels. To hear that side of him, especially in a court of law, was the last thing anyone expected. There is an unspoken rule in the Rebels that says you never speak badly of your leader, especially in a court of law. Labrook broke that rule. The trial has taken a toll on Labrook, and it could easily be understandable why he decided to take the easy way out and cooperate with the police. At the time, Labrook thought this case was the worst thing in his life, but what followed next proved to be way worse. Apart from this case, the police have been hounding him with several investigations. In 2023, the courts managed to have an anti-consorting order approved against Carl Labrook. This was done to cut him off from communicating with his biker friends, who are essentially family to him. This has isolated Labrook, and the police know that he could be at his weakest. Labrook has also been under investigation for a drive-by shooting that occurred in Baldivas. A Mongol gang member's house was shot up, and the police have reason to believe Labrook was involved. Although the mounting legal woes are a whole horror story, they have been nowhere close to the hell Labrook has had to endure from Rebels National President Damien Vella. Carl Labrook has seen his friends and what he considers family die due to their allegiance to the Rebels. He has seen a lot more of his friends go to jail for a long time during his time in the club. And despite all this, he has remained a loyal member of the club for over 25 years. When Damien Vella questioned his integrity and loyalty to the rebels just after his court appearance, Labrook was livid. Labrook protested and told anyone who would listen that he had nothing against Martin and had actually been one of the speakers at his funeral.
Back then, Nick was a hard worker, I not so much. In the beginning of our friendship, one memory stands out. I remember talking him into a job with me, and without saying too much, we had to see a guy that owed a large sum of money. While at this guy's house, I had to walk him 5 houses down to his mother's, who was overseas at the time. As I returned back, Nick came busting out of the guy's front door, balancing a brand new large plasma TV, which were quite rare in those days, as they had only just come out.
Why would he lie on his name? Damien Vella told Labrook that he was not happy with Labrook's submissions in his court appearances. Labrook was asked to submit his court transcript to Damien Vella so that Vella would determine whether Labrook had broken the rebels' code of honor. Labrook, already facing multiple woes, was angered by this request, and in a vitriolic tone, he told Vella to get the transcripts from the courts like everyone else. This boiled tensions, and Vella has threatened punitive action against Labrook. Before Vella could punish him, Labrook handed in his colors and quit the club which he had called home for over 3 decades. After Labrook's testimony, the National Rebels executive accused Labrook of selling out and threatened him with punitive action. In retaliation, Labrook quit the rebels and handed in his colors. This seemed like the close of a bad chapter in the rebels' history, but even more, carnage would come. The West Australian chapter of the rebels, which was being headed by Labrook, agreed with everything he had said about Nick Martin. Martin had stolen from them, and they had suffered his dictatorial tendencies. They had no problem with Labrook telling the truth, even in a court of law. When the national president started pressuring Labrook and eventually forced him to resign, the West Australian chapter decided to stand in solidarity with him. 37 members of the rebels' West Australian chapter followed right in Labrook's footsteps and resigned. This is the biggest resignation in the rebels' history and was termed the Great Resignation by members of the Australian biker community. The resignation sent shockwaves throughout the entire underground world, and it could be the end of the rebels, as we know them in Western Australia. The resigning members of the rebels' West Australia chapter refused to leave their Harleys, as is the norm, as an act of defiance to Damien Vella. They took their bikes with them, and it seems they will be either deflecting to another club or starting a whole new club under Labrook. That is, if Labrook doesn't go to jail for a long time. The rebels are in an ongoing fight with the Mongols, and dozens of rebels members are in prison as a result of that war. Having over 36 members resigning means the rebels are probably at their weakest, and the Mongols are set to easily win the war on the West Coast. The end of the rebels might come, but what might come sooner is Labrook's imprisonment.
The resignation has also been triggered by what most members think is mismanagement and poor leadership by Damien Vella. Damien Vella has been struggling to keep the rebels united since he took over power.
Labrook is officially no longer a member of the rebels, but his legal woes are not over yet. Considering his past criminal history, if he is found guilty, he might be up for a lengthy jail sentence, and there is nothing the police would want more than that. The prosecution has already charged and sentenced his accomplice, Ms. Kelly Kersley. Based on that alone, it is easy to predict that the former rebel leader will be going to jail, even if the possession of stolen goods charge does not stick. The driving without authority charge might just be enough to earn Carl Labrook a modest period behind bars. Whatever the outcome of this case is, one sure thing is that the rebels and the Australian underworld will never be the same. Whether it's for the better or for the worse, only time can tell.